A caring man took a walk. Everywhere he looked, people suffered. Anxiety ran high, hope dwindled, hatred rose. His neighbors had lost trust in the system and in each other. I need to do something, he thought. I'll bring them together and feed them. Around the dinner table, they can talk and see how much they have in common. Shared struggles, shared joy, shared pain. So he prepared a feast and invited all into his home. But some refused to sit at his table because they chose to only see differences. He was heartbroken because he wanted everyone to eat and be filled, not with food and wine, but with compassion.
One Sabbath, when Jesus went to eat in the house of a prominent Pharisee, he was being carefully watched. Then Jesus said to his host, "When you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or sisters, your relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back, and so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous." Those who started the He Gets Us movement noticed something curious. Jesus spent a lot of time around the dinner table. Many of his most frequently quoted messages and standout stories happened while he was sharing a meal with others. And those others around the table were a remarkably diverse cast. He shared meals with outcasts. He spent time with the self-righteous religious elite. He cared for people who had broken rules and were seen as unclean. He dined at the tables of the wealthy men whose riches were won with lies and corruption. Some gave up comfortable lifestyles to follow him. He crossed racial boundaries to the shock of many around him. He invited everyone to the table. Just before our Bible reading, Luke, who was a doctor, by the way, described one of the guests like this. There was a man suffering from abnormal swelling of his body. You see, Jesus was a friend to everyone. And what do friends do? They eat dinner together and they share in each other's lives, as difficult as that may be. Strangers eating together and becoming friends. What a simple concept. And yet we're pretty sure if we were to do it today, it would turn our own modern world upside down the same way Jesus turned his around 2,000 years ago. Very specifically, it filled that home of the prominent Pharisee with questions and head shakes. When we look at where Jesus ate, we see division and broken relationships everywhere. Judgmentalism and hypocrisy are on the rise. And I'm sad to say, even followers of Jesus sometimes invite only certain people into their homes, like they're in an exclusive club. But not Jesus. He invited all to the table. Over the last 5 years, I've had an opportunity to engage in ministry with quite a diverse group of people. They are people who stand out, who are not normal, if anyone really fits that term. They're individuals who require a lot of attention, but they offer so much in return. And you know what? So often those gatherings include food, ice cream, pizza, popcorn, tacos, desserts, even full-blown turkey dinners. What is there about sitting down at a table that breaks down differences? I had the opportunity to be inclusive, and it changed me. In today's terminology, I might even go so far as to say it wrecked me. I would never be the same. And I'm still not years later. The community was made up of seniors and young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And when they were brought together, something amazing happened. I witnessed community taking place around invitation and food. To be included, noticed, cared about enough to be invited, that tends to break down fears. It brings a sharing of stories, of lives, and so many smiles. That's what we've discovered here at St. Peter's in our partnership with the Unlabeled Theater Company, a group of caring men and women who had a heart for those with disability and saw them as unique and special and blessed individuals. So they've kept inviting more and more to the table, with a couple dozen young adults who are brave enough to stand up and be part of storytelling. They sing, they move, they make us laugh, they make us cry. It's a beautiful thing when God's children are brought together. And after the pandemic, they were the first ones to make use of our church kitchen, making cookies and all sorts of amazing treats with the main ingredient of love and acceptance. Jesus said, "But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed." And you will be blessed. Don't miss that. Why is it when we think of those with disabilities, we get it in mind that we're the ones who are going to help them, serve them, meet their needs? I'll be the first to stand up and say, it's just the opposite. So many children, 20-somethings, and adults with disability are the ones who pour into me. They're so fun. It never gets old or tiring. Some of our friends, Tim and Kiara, had an opportunity to walk alongside a family in their time of need. And as time went on, in their second half of life, they adopted Malia. I must say, Tim's posts on Facebook of their family gatherings and backyard events and even meals with others never gets old. Such love that flows out of those pictures to all of us. It began with accepting Jesus' challenge to pull back a chair at their kitchen table for someone who needed a welcome at that time in her life. It's not always easy to get there. Some question why they would do that, but no one can argue that Christ is not present at their table every day. A few minutes ago, we started with a He Gets Us video. Under the video is this description. Jesus was radically inclusive. His love movement ran counter to cultural norms and religious expectations of the day. He went out of his way to care for people who society had rejected, for disabled people, to conquering military oppressors, to prostitutes. He befriended corrupt tax collectors and violent nationalists. He treated women as equals at a time when such behavior was unheard of. And he embraced people in historically oppressed races and ethnic communities. Many times his love was so radical that it even violated the law. Jesus invited all to participate in the love, but not everyone was interested. The powerful and the wealthy were often threatened by Jesus' movement because it always resisted systems of oppression. After all, many benefited from oppressing the poor, the sick, women, and even certain races that Jesus embraced throughout his activism. So they didn't just reject his invitation, they killed him for it. But in spite of their best efforts to silence the movement, Jesus' message still resonates today. And it's still radically inclusive. We're all invited. Jesus came into this world to rescue God's children, all God's children. Not the ones who thought they were good, not the religious people, but the ones who were on the outside, those who had been pushed away. Jesus loved every sinner so much that he exchanged his sinless life for theirs. And it just so happens that those with pasts, those with disabilities, those with special needs were the ones who were most open to the message, those who were glad to be invited to the table. This week, I'll be enjoying the company of 25 families around tables at a camp for families who work so hard to care for a child with a disability. I'll be at Johnny and Friends Family Camp sharing love and acceptance and support and a message of hope from the Bible. I'll be celebrating Jesus' invitation of everyone to his great banquet celebration. It'll be a week of sharing hope through hardship. Individuals with disability used to make me feel unprepared and inadequate and unable to step in. But I found that is so inaccurate. I'd say the last years of my life have been some of the most rewarding, joy-filled experiences since I discovered how families of those with disability were so open to others walking beside them. My desire today was to get you to look into the doors of the Pharisees' house and see Jesus inviting everyone to the table. Isn't it awesome that you and I can do the same in our home and church?
Hi, Jade.
We're gonna get
Loving unconditionally really means constantly revisiting the hardest aspects of your life.
I love you.
Both of our children were born with cognitive anomalies and special needs. With Joey, the doctor just immediately started going through, the medical terminology. It was a dilation of lateral ventricles, and this is abnormal, and we would like to see it within a certain range at this point. And we had already gone through it once with Jada. There was a laundry list of possibilities. Chances of facial deformities, chances of him being clubfoot, everything that you would not want to read about your newborn baby was on that paper. We made the decision that no matter what his life would be like, no matter what his face would look like, no matter what his afflictions would be, that we would love him regardless.
He's smiling, lady.
Did he smile?
You're making him laugh, Joey.
Our son Joseph recently passed away from a seizure. It was an unexpected loss. When you're in the fire, it feels like punishment. But when you can step back and look at the fact that you were blessed with a life, you were afforded the opportunity to love a child who loves you back unconditionally.
Wow, dude.
It's really a privilege. It's very easy to fall into a victim mode, right? A victim mentality, a victim mindset. Why me? Why again? But being a caregiver, showing up daily, not going through life looking for someone to blame, choosing love. Those things aren't easy. I remind myself that's the same experience that Jesus had as well. And regardless of how hard it is, I think the alternative would be, harder, because then what? Who else would do it? I still have an 18-year-old daughter who is vibrant and beautiful and smart and clever and funny and strong. The job sometimes may be burdensome, but your power comes from your pain. I know it sounds cliche, right? But I really do draw on the strength from God a lot. Jesus was a reminder for us all that life is not meant to be easy. Jesus had a very big job to do, right? But who else was going to do it? And with Jada, she doesn't have a choice in the matter. She can't do these things for herself, so I have to do them for her.
Wise men say, only fools watching. I can't help falling in love with you.
I realize now that I was blessed twice because through them, both Jada and Joey, I have grown and I have learned a lot about, humility and setting yourself aside, setting your fears aside, and setting everything and anything that you could ever know aside to honor, respect, and love the life of another human being. Whether that's your child or your spouse or a friend, at the end of the day, I'd like to think that it's not about us, it's about how we affect other people.
He gets us. With your help, we can create a world where every person with a disability finds hope and dignity and their place in the body of Christ. So God's house will be full. Jesus was saying that God's kingdom is for everyone, no matter who they are, what their abilities, or what their station in life. Go out quickly and bring in the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame, so that my house will be full.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature, so will I. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sum of all our praises still falls short, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. God of salvation, you chase down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappear. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart and everything you've done. Every part